The blow of a whip raises a welt, but the blow of the tongue crushes the bones. When I was 4, I contracted rheumatic fever. It had me in the hospital for like 4 months. I also had extreme eczema that covered my body, and especially on my hands and my face and my neck. And I got bullied for it. Relentlessly. I had to wear gloves because my hands would so bad. There were moments that if I make a fist, it would burst and pus would come out. It was disgusting for the kids, of course. Long sleeves, turtlenecks. I tried to, of course, hide it the whole time. I had a tile next to my bed because I was starting to hit the tile because I prefer pain over the stupid itch because it was so annoying. Needless to say, in school, I was the leper, the Malaats is what they called it. And of course, the kids just see, oh, look at that, man. God, stay away from me. You know, watch out, your ears don't fall off. Oh, people started laughing, and then, of course, everybody started repeating those things. You know, so, yeah, that's where it started. Words are hurting more than anything else. I'd rather have a beating than to hear this the whole time that you're a freak. I was a very hard kid to control. I had ADHD. I was always the class clown because I still wanted to be liked. You know, drove the teachers nuts. I mean, one teacher, I got in 1 year over 60 times expelled with one guy because I was always making fun to try to make people laugh since they didn't like me. Every day I was in the forest. I had this whole path that I could go through the forest. And kids were going at me again on the playground, and there were trees. And it started with that first tree. I realized to go from the first tree to the second tree. And then I realized, wait a minute, I can go from the second to the third. So bullies would come and they would climb after me, and then I just started swinging at the top to the next tree. And they didn't want to do that. I had my own home tree, that's what I called it. It was a big tree with like all these branches going out, like the tree of life. The one and only childhood memory that was very vivid to me was me sitting in the classroom when I was 10 years old. I can literally smell that room if I talk about it. I know exactly what seat I was sitting. You can bring me back. I know this where I was sitting. This window was open and I was looking at this tree. And I was mesmerized by the tree. And the teachers tried to get a hold of me because I heard the kids laugh also. But I just was locked in on that tree. And finally he shouted really hard, Rutten. I go, what? He goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm looking at the tree. He goes, what about the tree? I said, how did the tree get there? And he goes, well, they planted it there, idiot. I go, yeah, I understand that. But if you go to a tree before, and the tree before, and the tree before, and you start backtracking trees, where do the trees come from? And of course, everybody started laughing. I thought I was crazy. But that was a very vivid memory that I had. And that was my moment. Which then later in life became really significant suddenly. My brother and I were at this place. It's a resort where they have everything. And there's a movie theater. And the movie theater is playing Enter the Dragon. And I see this guy on the front with nunchucks stand. I don't even know what nunchucks are. I'm 12. He's 15. But the movie was 17 years and older. But we really want to see the movie. Like a half an hour before, we sneak in and we lay on the floor there. So once people start coming in, we sit up in our chairs and we watch the movie. This was this little guy, Bruce Lee, and he was just manhandling and just kicking everybody's butt. And I go, oh my Lord, I need to be that guy. I realized if I would be like that guy, then I could take care of the bullies. My fear will be gone. But of course, your fear will never be gone. I think the fear of not being liked is a much higher fear, because then you have no place in the world. That made me who I was. It's all happened for a certain reason. I was done. I didn't want to talk anymore. People needed to go down. Eventually, I convinced my parents to sign me up for martial arts classes. And from there, my obsession to be able to fight, to be able to control my life, that became my purpose. I made a list. It was a short list of 4 or 5 guys only, but I went after every one of them. And there were guys who literally said, please, boss, I don't remember. I said, I do. I was relentless at that moment because I knew that guy for years, he's been doing this to me, and now he wants to get out of it by saying sorry. That's not going to work. I make him sorry. The bullies needed to know what they did to me. That was the thing. Even when I got the world championships, those belts, yeah, they were great. It never compares to the time I stood up for myself. Chris Dolman stopped me. He's the godfather, so to say, in Holland from MMA. And he said, dude, I remember you from Thai boxing. You're an animal. There's this new sport coming out called free fighting. And the first thing I asked him, I said, do they pay? And he goes, yeah, of course. I go, sign me up. I tell people this is where my fighting started. This is when I was completely in control. That's what I thought.
There he is, Bas Rutten.
Rutten was smashing guys with uppercuts and hooks and straight punches where no one else had figured out how to do that.
Was a striker terrifying to those that faced him. No fighter in the UFC or Pride or Strikeforce or the WEC, any of them, has been as accurate as Bas Rutten.
Rutten has not lost a match in 3 years.
He is king of Pancrase. Bas Rutten! When fighters ask me what is a great motivation to become a good fighter, I always say the same line. How do you want to be remembered when you're gone? The new UFC heavyweight champion of the world, Bas
Rutten! Champion of the world. I should be really freaking happy. And I got this, and I do whatever I want, and I can drink, and let's go party now. I'll bring the drugs out. All these things. I was in control, but it was all like I was self-medicating something that I didn't know that I was missing. I wasn't fulfilled. And then the tendonitis came. So now I'm taking painkillers. So I start taking the 2 Docos, and they become 4, and they become 8. That liver gets used to things really fast, and suddenly I'm at 80 milligrams of OxyContins a day. And I go, oh, I gotta stop this stuff, this is not good. Any drug person will tell you that's an insane amount. Always double vision. I would always say 2 or 3 of you. Always. TV was always double. My heart rate was crazy, my blood pressure was crazy, I couldn't sleep, I take sleeping pills. And I think it was also combined with that I couldn't fight anymore, that it was really over right now. It freaked me out, the depression freaked me out. I was contemplating of killing myself. And then realizing, what am I going to do without me? Oof. Yeah, they got me.
Absolutely. I mean, commitment to values, to faith, whatever it may be. I mean, honestly, I think it's a very me society. Everything's me now, gratification now, what can I do? And no one does put in the time and the effort and the passion. And we lack people stepping up.
Kevin just started his TV show, The King of Queens, and he found out I was in America, so he and Joe Rogan apparently used to watch pay-per-view the Japanese fighting. So he knew from the crazy guy with the red boots, he would say.
When I met Bas, I remember I first it was just The King of Queens started, and I'm talking to him and trying to keep the conversation going, like that. He's just sitting here, like he doesn't even know what's going on, really, just looking at me. And then those guys left the room, and I felt like I was in the room with like a leopard, like where you go, where your feet, as long as you're feeding it conversation stuff, it's okay, keeps eating it, and then it looks at you again. He was just looking at me, and I ran out of conversation.
So I got a phone call from his management, and he says, hey, he would like to meet you and start working out with you. We just clicked immediately, had the same crazy humor, and we became friends. We right away became friends, so that's like 28 years ago now. When Here Comes the Boom happened, I knew he was writing a story because everybody was telling me he was writing a story about mixed martial arts. First he said, you're the part of Nico. And then after I read the script, I knew it was one of the 4 leads in the movie. So I wrote him back, I go, dude, I never expected this. He goes, you're the first guy I thought about when I started writing the movie.
Escape. No, don't squirm. That just helps me sink it in tighter.
Kevin has always been a Catholic. I don't know how devout he was because he never showed anything. He might have given me little hints between conversations to see where I was standing, which would almost, if he did, get slapped down because I wasn't really into God. He knew it was not the right time to ask me.
Fighters are driven by faith, and it gives them the drive that they need and to get through anything. I mean, again, the fighting is a metaphor, but the faith is there, and you see it within them. And it was very important. And it's also very important to not knock people over the head with it.
I saw priests on the set, and somehow I just liked that. I remember sending pictures. We were in an elevator, and I make a picture, and I sent it to my wife. She goes, yeah, right, you're there with priests, Me with priests, there's no way. She's laughing. And then one day Kevin, we have a break, an hour and a half break, and he's asking me, hey, this guy's going to talk about how the world came together. We have a cabana, put the AC on, can smoke a cigar, drink a Coke, and I just listen. It's kind of an interesting story. Now, if he would have said, hey, this guy's going to talk about God, and this is going to talk about Jesus, I would have probably said, you know what, I'm in my room, I'm going to eat something, and I'll see you in an hour and a half. But he didn't say that. He's just going to talk about how the world started. And there was Leo Severino. And in the first freaking thing he says, the leaf fell from the tree. Where do I know this story from? He says, that leaf just reached its end destination. Let's go backtrack that leaf. And he goes to the branch, and he goes to the tree before, and he goes to the tree before, and he starts going back. And how is that even possible? He literally starts his talk like that. What I was thinking when I was 10 years old. I'm getting goosebumps now. At that moment, I realized that I was always blindfolded. It was just lifted, and I knew, okay, God made this. They promise them freedom, but they themselves are slaves of corruption. For people are slaves to whatever masters them. I couldn't control my anger, I couldn't control my judging, I couldn't control making jokes at the wrong moments, I couldn't control my drinking, my drugs, I couldn't control any of that. I've been the opposite of being a man. I've never been under control. I just indulge in whatever I want, which I thought was freedom, but it's not freedom.
And you deserve this. Wow.
Hey, I got it. I got it all.
It was all addiction. What Kevin did, he gave me that talk with Leo Severino, but he needed to cement everything. So 2 days later, we watched The Passion. The way Jesus suffered for us. Listen, I've been suffering my entire life. Now, when you suffer, you compare that suffering with the suffering that Jesus did, it's nothing. It's like virtually, absolutely nothing. You don't even want to say it because you're ashamed to say it. That's how much he suffered for us. So when I saw The Passion, that's when I saw a real man. That's the guy who's completely in control of himself. So all these things made me see that I was always wrong. There was always simply Jesus. I want to be a man who can overcome his weaknesses, vices, and imperfections. A man who's not a slave to his passions, emotions, and desires, but just a man who's in control of himself. So it started with Bruce Lee, but then I found out Jesus was the man, and there my obsession came. Now I suddenly wanted to be that person. It's very hard for any fighter, for every person who's been peaking in their careers, because you're always in control. You don't like to give that away. I did some crazy stuff in my life. I had to go to confession. So I had 14 pages, Word program, font 12. 14 pages with sins. And probably I forgot a bunch, but they said that's okay. And I remember there's a moment, there's a fan in the room, and he sees me, I'm sweating, and he's just looks at me, and he turns the fan towards me, and he just keeps his eye contact with me, like here you got a little more air. So I was gonna hit him with a light one, a little heavier one, boom, heavy one, pull back to a light one, like I had the system in my head. I thought he's gonna hear things that he's never heard before. But I know, now looking back, it's like, you heard everything. And so I called Kevin. And I said, dude, you're right. I mean, I've literally feel the weight off. It was a big relief to have that off my chest. The difference is a big difference. The hole is gone. I don't feel the need anymore to be liked. Imagine how peaceful your life is going to be if you don't care about your stupid likes on social media and all what people say, because it doesn't matter. Faith added a lot to our marriage. We laugh so much, we have so much fun. And I always asked her, I say, why did you stay? Because she had any freaking reason to leave me, man.
Thank you to my beautiful wife, where is she? Right here in the front. She sits there, my beautiful wife, Karen. Man, I know that being married to a fighter is not the most easiest thing, and I guarantee you I could not have done it without you. I truly mean that. I love you very much.
And I'm telling you, it's only because she saw me change. She saw me change for the better. And she knew that every time I did more prayers and more this, I started to become a better guy. She now got goosebumps again. And I understand there are people who look up to me because I was a fighter. But I'm saying I'm much tougher guy now than when I was fighting.
So how would I want to be remembered? Well, that's easy. As a guy who was was there for his family and his friends. The guy who didn't walk over others to get where he wanted. Who holds the door open for a person behind him. Just a decent guy. And trust me, I made a lot of mistakes, but it is what you do with those mistakes that makes you who you are.
Discipline is the highest form of self-love there is. Discipline reveals the commitment you made to yourself. And that means that the future you is depending on the current you, that you better do what you said you were going to do. You know, if you're in a dark place and you just trust in God, God will get you out. He will give you an in, you know, to his faith. And then once you see that in, then you're going to have to start working on it. And once you start working on it, Deus est concilium, I always say. God has a plan. Turn to the Gospels. It's the good news that might just change your life. It did mine.